Good morning. So if you watched the video back when I purchased this woodland, you might remember right up in the top corner up here there was a dead cherry tree that I said I'd have to deal with really sooner rather than later. Well, I would say it's actually now really rather later because I've been trying to get hold of the owner of the piece of land that is overhanging, but unfortunately I haven't been able to get hold of them. So I'm thinking, to be honest, they're not looking at the land, so they're not going to even notice that I've been on there. And at the end of the day, they're going to want the tree dealt with anyway. So I've decided today that I'm going to try and battle on and get it down. Now, obviously, it's quite a long way up this hill, so I'm going to try and do it with as minimal tools as possible. However, it's a blooming big tree, and it's really rather awkward. Yeah, I'll explain more when I get there. So this is the tree in question, and as you can see from the stripy bark, I'm pretty sure that's a cherry tree, and it shouldn't be at that angle. It is well and truly dead, and you can tell that because of the fact it's got no roots, so there's nothing holding it at this end. There's a couple of ropes that are tied around it. I'll show you those in a bit more detail in a second, but I think the main thing that is holding this up is a branch in an oak tree. Now, at the top of this bramble patch, there's a fence line, so that is where my boundary stops. So the majority of this tree is overhanging the neighbour's property. So yeah, I'm thinking if I get onto the neighbour's property up there and work from that side, I think I'll probably have more luck at not killing myself whilst doing this. So right, let's get round there. And just for context, that's the side view, so that's the roots, or what's left of them down there. That's a lot of trunk going up before it gets to the boundary line, so that is a lot of weight there. So now onto this side of the tree, you can really see what the problem is. So the main trunk went up quite straight, but there was this one branch that went off to the side and it's got tangled in the oak tree there. So you can see by the fact that the branch is curved, it's obviously holding a lot of weight, and I mean that is a big trunk to be holding up. But you can also see that the bark is starting to flake off, so that means the rot is starting to get into there, so I'm not sure how strong that's actually going to be. Also further up you can see there's a lot of dead wood in the tree there, so while I'm working on this I've got to be very aware because some of that might drop out on top of me, so I've got to be very careful with that. That does look quite rotten up there. Problem is, I'm not convinced it's actually rotten enough to free the tree, but I'm going to give it a go. So my thought is, rather than me trying to climb up, because I mean there's nowhere to put a ladder or anything like that, and it's not strong enough to take my weight. So I'm thinking if I attach a winch to that, I can attach it to this tree here, and hopefully pull the entire thing towards me and just let it drop. Now if I do that, there's two problems that I've got. One is the fence line below it. Now that's not too much of an issue. I'm thinking if I cut it at the oak tree there, I can take that section out, let the tree drop, and then put the fence back again afterwards. The other problem is these ropes, which again I don't think they're too much of a problem. The chunky one, as you can see, that's already snapped and dropped off. The thin one, you'd think that's taking quite a lot of weight because it's really cutting into the trunk there and there. It goes down round over the oak tree over there, but the other end comes around to here. It's onto this elm tree here, which isn't exactly a great knot, but then it's also fraying here. Now that is under a bit of tension, but I don't actually think that's taking a lot of weight. So I'm thinking if I carefully try and remove the fence, cut some of these brambles down so I've got a bit more access, cut the rope off, and then try and attach the winch. So yeah, that's the plan. Let's see how I get on. Well, I've transferred a lot of the weight onto the winch now. Problem is, it's not going anywhere. So if you look up in the tree there, you can see there's a small branch that comes out the side of the cherry tree. So that's rotted and snapped off at the top there. And then there's another little branch from the oak tree that sort of zigzags up. And again, the top of that is rotted and dead. Those two dead branches are what are holding it at the moment and stopping it from coming this way. So yeah, I'm going to try a little bit more with the winching, and then I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. Right, well, it doesn't want to go anywhere by winching it from that point, so I'm going to have to think of something else. I'm thinking if I can get the winch further up, I might be able to put more pressure on that joint, and hopefully the branches will snap and then release it. So yeah, I'm going to carefully release the pressure from this and retie it further up, see if that helps. Right, well, this isn't entirely working. I'm thinking if I get the big rope at the bottom there and I give that a couple of tugs, I might be able to give it a couple of shakes and see if that helps. If not, I'm going to have to do something even more sketchy. Right, so my options are, as far as I can see, is get my chainsaw out, stand in the brambles at the bottom there with nowhere to move, and cut into the trunk, despite the fact that the bar of the chainsaw isn't long enough to cut all the way through, and hope that the top doesn't fold down on top of me. Or stand here with the pole saw and try and cut on that joint there, hoping that the top doesn't fall down on top of me. At least being up here, I've got somewhere to run, and by doing it by hand, I can hear if there's any cracks or movement. So it probably looks worse, but I'm hoping it's a safer alternative. So yeah, give it a go with a handsaw, I suppose. Right, well, I'm cutting reasonable weight into that branch now, so I'm thinking if I try and relieve the pressure for a little bit, it might snap. If not, I'll put the pressure back on again and cut a bit more. Well, cutting it where I am doesn't seem to be changing anything, so I'm thinking I'll try winching it from a different angle and see if that does anything. I'll be surprised because it's pulling it into the oak tree, but you never know, so let's give it a shot. You know what they say, third time's the charm. I'm hoping this will do it. I'm also hoping I don't run out of battery or memory storage on the camera, so let's carry on. Right, well, I've been trying for a couple of hours now, and it is quite apparent that this method is not going to work. I've tried the winch from multiple directions, and every time it just binds up. So those two little branches that are crossing up there, they're the ones that are causing the problem. I mean, they look completely rotten. I've managed to break a couple of bits off, but they're just far too strong. They're holding everything in place. So I thought the other option is I might try and cut through down here. So I've used the pole saw, I've cut through from the top and I've cut through from the bottom. Problem is, where the pole saw is curved, the two cuts are meeting at that end, but I've got this wedge shape that I can't get to cut. Now, because of the way that the log's twisting, it's now binding up on the saw as I'm trying to cut it. So cutting it up there isn't really an option. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to cut it down there in the branches, which I really didn't want to do. But I've been down, I've got my chainsaw, I've brought it up here. Problem is, I haven't got any spare fuel, so I'm going to hope that the amount of fuel I've got in the fuel tank of the chainsaw is going to be enough for me to cut that. Once I've cut that, that should drop, that should pull out of there, the whole thing should end up on the floor, and then it's at a level I can deal with. But yeah, let's give this one last go. Right, well I'm now kind of stuck, so I've cut halfway through the tree there and the chainsaw is now out of fuel. So the tree itself, it is really actually quite solid. There's no way I'm going to cut that by hand. It's far too big and far too solid to be cutting it by hand. Problem is, it's a Sunday afternoon and I think the petrol stations are going to be shut. I know the shops would certainly be shut by now. So part of me goes, well, just leave this till next weekend when you've got some fuel. Problem is, I've been cutting into this tree. Now, I haven't seen anyone up on this bit of land for years, so I don't think anyone's actually going to be up underneath this, but there's a possibility that if somebody does happen to come up underneath this and it does happen to fall at that time, is it my fault because I've been cutting into the tree? I mean, the video shows that it's clearly not wanting to go anywhere, but I don't want to be held responsible, so I really do want to get this at least down on the floor before the end of the day. So yeah, I'm thinking I'm just going to have another go at cutting by hand up at the top. I don't know if standing on this side of the tree I'll be able to get the saw in a little deeper. Worth a shot. But yeah, this is getting frustrating to say the least. Right, I'm going to give it one last go from the original position. Now, I've got quite a cut going in the trunk there, which I didn't have the first time round. So, potentially it might fold at that point. So, potentially it might go. But if it doesn't shift this time, I'm happy to say that it's not going anywhere. And I'll just wait until I've got some fuel next week. So, one last go. I am really on the limit of my winch, but it's making good sounds, so I'm going to keep trying. At last, I've got it somewhere I can deal with it now. Well, I say that bit's still hung up on the tree there. And, of course, it's going to fall that side and squash a bit of fence. I didn't disconnect, but at least that's a more manageable size for me. So, right, let's get that bit down. Right, well I've tidied up as best I can. Now obviously I still need to deal with that large log and it is blocking the access. Thing is, I don't think anything's been down here anytime recently, and I'm pretty sure that if anyone was going down here, they'd have a chainsaw themselves so they could deal with it if it's imperative to get a vehicle through here. But for now, I'm going to just have to leave it like this. I hate leaving jobs half done, but at the moment that is down on the floor. That is where I wanted it. Every time the wind blew, I was concerned that the tree was going to fall, and I was thinking, what mess am I going to come to? What's going to happen? What damage is it going to do? At least now I know this is all the damage that is going to happen. It is down on the floor. It just needs tidying up. So over the next week, I'm going to get some fuel. So next weekend, I can cut the last of this up, chuck it all on my side of the fence, put the fence back and make it look like nobody's ever been here. But for now, I'm going to go and have a well-earned rest, and I'll pick this up when I've got some fuel. So see you in a bit. Right, well it's a week later and the tree's still here, but obviously somebody's been up here because the grass has all been cut. So yeah, I'm guessing they've probably got cameras or something around here and see me working. So yeah, so plan for today, now I've got some fuel, finish cutting that up, put the fence back and pretend I was never here. So yeah, let's get on. Well, would you believe it? It's almost as though there's a theme to this job. So, cutting through the large log there, I got almost all the way through. I got to the crucial bit where it's like holding on with that tiny little bit, just too strong to actually get the log to shift. And the chainsaw decided to stall. Now, I don't know what's wrong with the chainsaw. I can't get it to start again. And the fact it's smoking probably isn't a good sign. I'm hoping it's just some oil on the outside of the casing where it's sat for a while. But yeah, I'm going to give it a while to cool down, and hopefully I can carry on using the chainsaw. Because if not, it's kind of put a spanner in the works. But yeah, I was hoping to get that log cut up there as well, and yeah, without a chainsaw that's not going to happen. So I'm going to try giving that a hit with a large log to see if I can get it to shift. I'm also going to try and avoid being bitten, because I'm being bitten to pieces by horseflies. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm almost starting to think that this tree might be cursed. Yeah, oh well, right. Well, I am pleased to say I am finished at last, and as you can see I've tidied everything up and it doesn't actually notice that I've been here, which is how I like to leave a job. So to get the last of that log out, I did end up resorting to a handsaw. It wasn't fun, it wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't quick, but I managed to cut through the last of the log, roll the section out of the way so I could get the fence back up. Now the fence itself I have nailed to the tree again. I don't like nailing fences to trees because obviously I don't know how good that is for the tree, plus if you ever had to cut that tree down in the future it's going to cause a problem to the saw. But it was already nailed to the tree, so half it's already grown into the tree, and to be honest I think the tree is stronger than the fence post and not going to go anywhere, so from my point of view that means less maintenance, so that's absolutely excellent. Now give it a couple of months, this will all grow back and sawdust will all rot down and you wouldn't actually notice I've been here at all. So I'm pleased with that. It's obviously a big weight off my mind, literally. But yeah, the tree itself, I've got everything on my side now. It seems a shame to just leave it to rot down because that wasn't actually as rotten as I thought. It also seems a shame to turn it into firewood because actually a thick slab of cherry like that would be worth something, and if you could cut it into slabs it would be fantastic. But I haven't got the technology or the enthusiasm to get that out of here to somewhere they can cut it into slabs. So for now I'm just going to leave it there to rot down. Like I say, it seems a bit of a shame, but it's good for nature, at least there's that. But yeah, I'm going to go and find somewhere cool and away from these flies because I'm still getting bitten to pieces. I hope you enjoyed this video and I shall see you later. Now, how did I get across the fence in the first place? That's the question.